While running for class president, the girl suddenly noticed something strange. There were only 29 students in her class, yet she received 30 votes. She counted several times and kept getting the same result. Even the homeroom teacher said it was impossible to have 30 votes. With no other choice, the girl counted again together with her classmates. Just as they were about to reach the 30th vote, she finally saw who the extra person was. It was a dark, shadowy ghost, but none of the other students seemed to notice it. To avoid causing a panic, the girl named Miko kept this to herself. Still, she couldn't figure out why she could suddenly see ghosts. So on her way home from school, Miko searched it up on her phone, but all the answers said it was just hallucinations caused by too much mental stress. Then, when she happened to glance up, she spotted another ghost right ahead of her, baring its teeth in a hideous grin. Strangely enough, no one else on the bus could see it. She didn't know if she'd somehow gained the ability to see spirits, but Miko was so terrified that tears started streaming down her face. She quickly searched for what to do when you see a ghost. A master in one video said don't be afraid, just yell and curse at the ghost, and it'll disappear. So the next time Miko spotted a child ghost crouching in a corner, she decided to try the master's method. Miko was so scared she bolted. The little ghost kept following right behind her. Luckily, her house was nearby, and the little ghost didn't seem to follow her inside. Miko continued watching videos about dealing with spirits. Another content creator said yelling at ghosts is the wrong approach. It actually makes them more agitated, and they might even follow you home. Sure enough, when Miko looked up, the little ghost was now sitting in her living room watching TV. The creator suggested that if you see a ghost, just pretend you can't see it. So Miko adopted this method. No matter how the little ghost tried to scare her, she acted like it wasn't there. The next morning on her way to school, Miko spotted a ghost crouching by the roadside the moment she stepped outside. To get past safely, she stuck with the other creator's advice. She put on her earphones, played upbeat music, pretended she couldn't see a thing, and walked right past the ghost with her head down.
これ落としたけど。
生きてる。
Turns out Miko's nearsightedness made her mistake an old man for a ghost. Her earlier behavior had annoyed him a bit. Miko quickly apologized, grabbed her stuff, and hurried off. After that false alarm, Miko's mood brightened up. She jogged all the way to the school gate, where she happened to run into the class president, Koana. She immediately put on a big smile and rushed over to greet her. But the very next second, her smile froze, her eyes filled with horror. A ghostly hand was resting on Kohana's shoulder. Still, Miko could only pretend she didn't see it. She asked where Koana had been yesterday and learned that she'd been keeping vigil at a funeral home the night before. That's why the spirit was clinging to her. Since Koana was her good friend, Miko couldn't just stand by and do nothing. She searched online for ways to get rid of ghosts. The answers were all over the place: salt, prayer beads, talismans, shrines, all supposedly worked. Obviously, salt was the easiest to get. She snuck up behind Koana and threw several handfuls of salt at her when she wasn't looking, but it had absolutely no effect. What she didn't expect was that she wasn't the only one at this school who could see ghosts. At the school festival lottery event, two upperclassmen also noticed the ghostly hand on Kohana's shoulder. But even worse, a shadowy figure had sat down right next to their pregnant homeroom teacher and was eyeing her belly with sinister intent. In the nick of time, Miko pretended to have a stomachache to get the teacher to leave. The two upperclassmen saw everything. They immediately realized this girl could also see ghosts. So the female upperclassman, Yu, approached Miko and Koana. Under the pretense of documenting the event, she took photos of them both really just to test Miko's reaction. Then some classmates walked over, so Yu had to leave. But right after, the male upperclassman came over. He straight up called Miko out on being able to see ghosts. He told her that years ago, a building collapse at this school killed over 50 students and teachers. They all became earthbound spirits, wandering every corner of the campus. And since it happened during the school festival, this time of year is when they're most active. He warned Miko that pretending not to see them wouldn't solve anything. If there's something she can do, she should try to do it. Perhaps inspired by his words, Miko bought another set of spiritual prayer beads to give to Koana. But when she found her, Koana was eating again right after lunch. Koana said she didn't know why she was always so hungry. But when she saw the beads Miko brought her, her attention shifted immediately. The moment she put them on though, the beads snapped apart. Miko understood that ghostly hand was interfering. She looked closely and saw the ghost's grip had spread from Kohana's shoulder all the way down to her stomach. After school, Koana was frantically rushing off to buy more food like she'd lost her mind. Miko followed. Worried, she suddenly noticed a shrine by the road. Remembering that the internet said shrines could repel ghosts, she immediately called out to Koana and let her inside under the pretense of praying for good luck. Sure enough, once they passed through the gate, Miko saw the ghost had been left outside. And when they left, it didn't seem to follow either. She thought that would be the end of it. But the next day during the festival lottery, all the popular activities were taken by other classes. Only the least popular options remained: a haunted house and making an archway. Luckily, Yu's class had made an archway for last year's festival, and the base was still around. If Miko's class wanted to do it, they could use it. So they all went to the storage room to look for it. The moment Miko walked in, she saw several ghosts inside. She pretended not to see them while reminding Koana not to wander off, afraid she'd bump into a ghost and get followed again. But Yu, who also had the sight, handled things differently. She pulled prayer beads and ritual tools from her bag and started an exorcism right there. Unexpectedly, Koana interrupted the ritual. She'd figured out from Yu's strange behavior that ghosts were involved and ran out in a panic. The moment she got outside, she saw the pregnant homeroom teacher being loaded into an ambulance, about to give birth. But when Miko rushed out after her, she noticed several small red hands on the teacher's belly. Just as she was panicking about what to do, the upperclassman behind her told her not to worry. Those weren't evil spirits, they were the teacher's guardian spirits. With them there, the baby would definitely be born safely. Miko finally relaxed. With the homeroom teacher away, a substitute named Aizen came in temporarily. He was a young, handsome guy, so the students were all excited. The principal mentioned that Aizen and their homeroom teacher were from the same hometown and had known each other for a long time. The classmates teased him, asking if he'd dated their teacher. But Miko's expression was dead serious, because behind Aizen, she could see a black, vengeful spirit clinging tightly to him. Despite her reluctance, as vice class president, Miko and class president Koana were called to the office after class by Aizen to discuss matters. But Miko kept staring at the vengeful spirit beside him. Even Aizen could sense something was off. Meanwhile, the class ultimately decided to go ahead with the haunted house. This worried Miko, since haunted houses are these spirits' favorite places. Then, during class one day, things took another turn. Miko noticed that the vengeful spirit following Aizen was now standing right in front of Koana. And just like before when she was haunted, Koana started complaining about being hungry. Miko understood this had to be connected to Koana spending too much time around Aizen. So when she heard a classmate say the teacher wanted Koana to pick something up from his office, Miko went herself instead. She tried to read something on Aizen's face but suddenly heard the vengeful spirit speak through Aizen's mouth.
人のこと、あんまりジロジロ見ないでよ。
Terrified, Miko quickly lowered her head, grabbed the stuff, and rushed out. Soon the haunted house was finished, and everyone wanted to take a group photo to celebrate. Miko noticed Koana was missing again. A classmate said she'd gone to the office. Moments later, Koana came running over looking completely drained. She barely managed to take the photo with everyone before leaving. But Miko noticed something horrifying in the photo. Koana's face and the vengeful spirit's face had merged together. It seemed the spirit had latched onto Koana, and once again, she was binge eating uncontrollably. So Miko suggested they visit the shrine again to drive the spirit away. But this time, nothing happened. Miko refused to give up and dragged Koana back and forth through the shrine gate several times, until Koana got fed up and shoved her away. The next day, Miko made a bunch of food to apologize, but Aizen told her Koana had taken the day off. Then Kohana's mother called, saying her daughter had suddenly collapsed and hadn't woken up. Miko knew the vengeful spirit was responsible. With no other choice, she went to Yu and begged for help. Yu explained that because Koana naturally has very high spiritual energy, spirits are drawn to her. They feed off her energy like draining her life force. That's why she kept feeling hungry and needed to eat constantly until eventually her energy runs out and she dies. But what's attached to Aizen isn't a ghost. It's a living spirit, the spiritual manifestation of a living woman who loves him deeply. Because she can't get his attention, her resentment accumulated over time. She clings to Aizen and goes after every woman who gets too close to him. This kind of thing is common around men who lead women on and abandon them. Aizen must have abandoned some woman in the past. Fortunately, Yu had a talisman that could dispel living spirits, so Miko tricked Aizen into helping her move some things, while Yu cast the spell from outside the window. Before long, they noticed the spirit had vanished. Then Miko got a call from Kohana's mother saying their homeroom teacher happened to be at the same hospital giving birth and had come to visit Koana. In a flash of realization, Miko connected all the dots. She remembered the principal saying Aizen and the homeroom teacher were from the same hometown, and how Aizen had slipped and called her by a nickname. She concluded that Aizen had abandoned the homeroom teacher, and the teacher's longing had manifested as a living spirit. She rushed to tell the teacher and asked her to leave Kohana's room. Though the teacher didn't believe what Miko was saying, she insisted that even if such a woman existed, it couldn't be her. It was Aizen's mother. It turned out they really had grown up together. But because Aizen came from a single-parent home, his mother had an extreme need for control. She never allowed him to get close to anyone. Whenever Aizen showed the slightest reluctance, his mother would guilt-trip him by bringing up how his father had abandoned them. She forced Aizen to cut ties with the homeroom teacher. But if that spirit was Aizen's mother, then it couldn't be a living spirit, it had to be a dead spirit, because Aizen's mother had passed away long ago, and only those who've been dead for a long time become dead spirits. With the group's current abilities, there was no way to remove it from Aizen. Then Miko remembered taking Koana to the shrine before, but it hadn't worked that time. After hearing the details, the upperclassmen said it wasn't that it didn't work, they'd gone at the wrong time. The deity only descends upon the shrine during daylight and leaves after sunset. They'd gone at night, when the deity wasn't there. Who knew gods kept business hours too? The sun was about to set. To help Koana recover as soon as possible, Miko decided to take a risk. She lied to Aizen, saying she needed to go buy supplies for the festival, and asked him to drive her. Then she tricked him into thinking there was a market behind the shrine and that they just needed to walk through. But just as they approached the gate, Aizen suddenly felt extremely uncomfortable under his mother's spirit's influence. His feet felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. His mother realized Miko was trying to separate them, and her resentment surged violently. Luckily, Yu arrived just in time. She sprinted forward and shoved Aizen through the gate. Fueled by sheer obsession, the mother's spirit forced her way through the shrine's barrier and appeared before Miko. Just as she was about to attack this girl who dared separate her from her son, time suddenly froze. A beam of light emanated from within the shrine and pushed the mother's spirit back beyond the barrier. Seeing that brute force wouldn't work, the mother changed tactics. She transformed into how she looked when alive and made herself visible to Aizen. The moment he saw his mother, Aizen instinctively moved toward her, but then he realized he couldn't let his mother control him anymore. He couldn't let her hurt his students. So just like Miko, he chose to ignore her and started chatting about the birds nearby. The two of them got more and more absorbed in conversation. genuinely acting as if they couldn't see her at all. Maybe she felt her son had abandoned her and lost all hope. Or maybe her conscience finally stirred, and she realized she couldn't keep clinging to him like this. Whatever the reason, after receiving no response for so long, the mother's dead spirit slowly faded away. And at almost the exact same moment, Koana woke up in the hospital. After everything was over, Miko talked with you about their ability to see spirits. You said she'd had it since she was very young. Her parents had died in an accident. And afterward, because she missed them so much, she began seeing their spirits. Miko, on the other hand, had only recently gained this ability. The first spirit she actually saw was her own father. Her father had died suddenly at work the year before, but shortly before that, she'd been giving him the silent treatment because he ate her pudding. They hadn't spoken for days. This became a knot in her heart, because she couldn't face it. She'd been pretending not to see her father's spirit all along. In truth, she felt incredibly guilty about what she'd done, but her father never blamed her, even as a ghost. He was the same as always, nagging her about eating properly, dressing warmly, and taking care of herself. That shrine was a place her father used to take her to pray, and it was precisely because of this connection that the deity inside was willing to help her. After all of this, Miko decided to finally face her feelings. When she got home, she placed a pudding in front of her father's memorial tablet. She told her mother she wanted to make stir-fried pork liver with chives, her father's favorite dish when he was alive. Before long, the school festival arrived. Koana had fully recovered and was back at school. They all had a blast in the haunted house their classmates had built. Then the upperclassmen suddenly came over to chat with them. But this terrified Koana.
ねえ、さっきから誰と話してんの？
It turned out the upperclassman was also an earthbound spirit of this school, and it wasn't just him. All the male students were the same. They'd been trapped in this all-girls school for over 100 years. Unable to leave, they could only blend in among the students, finding small bits of joy in the endless passage of time. And with that, this heartwarming film wrapped in a horror shell comes to an end. Maybe we're always afraid of the unknown and the supernatural, but we forget that what truly breaks us is the regret of being separated by life and death. Those ghosts we think are terrifying might be the very people someone else desperately misses but can never see again. That's all for today's movie. Thanks for watching.